All right, welcome everybody. My name is Dylan. I have been using ChatGPT on a daily basis in my real estate business for a little over a year now, and started this Facebook group summer of 2023. And in the beginning, just invited like 50 of my closest geeky, nerdy friends who wanted to figure out how we could use ChatGPT to do more in our real estate businesses. And as you've probably seen, the group has kind of exploded to almost 10,000 members. And we've been doing weekly, sometimes bi-monthly webinars on ChatGPT and different ways that you can use ChatGPT, leverage ChatGPT specifically in a real estate business to pretty much save time, make more money. And so today what we're going to do is we're going to focus on ways that you can use ChatGPT to increase your content output, to increase your throughput of posting on social media platforms. I think that one of the biggest questions that a lot of agents have when it comes to ChatGPT is, how do I use it to get more leads? How do I use it to get more business? And through the feedback that I've gotten from group members in the Facebook group and in my own experience, the best way to get more leads from social media is to develop some sort of routine, regular posting schedule. And I think all of us, whenever we're thinking about that, we can intuitively kind of understand that that's the right approach, and that will translate into some sort of results in terms of more leads. But there's a little bit of an activation energy to getting more content out there. And so what I want to show you today is how easy it is to use ChatGPT to generate a large amount of content for your real estate business with very little input from you. And what's cool about what I'm going to show you is that you can create brand specific, hyper local pieces of content for your business. But before we get started, I wanted to bring our attention to nerdyagents.com. Nerdyagents.com is kind of an offshoot from the Facebook group. It's meant to be a repository of all of the information and content that we have collected and explore together through the Facebook group, but in a newsletter format. And so every Friday I send out a newsletter, which includes the latest tips, tricks, and tools for real estate agents that are interested in leveraging AI in their business. And so if you're interested in running a human-powered, AI-enabled business, to whatever degree you're interested in doing that, this newsletter will become a repository of information for you to hopefully draw on and pick and choose the good stuff. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. It looks like most of you are intermediate to advanced users of ChatGPT. I put expert on there, but no one's really an expert. Yeah, this technology is so new. Thanks for participating in the poll. I'm going to go ahead and stop the share really quickly and get ready on this other side so that I can bring up some of the tabs that I need. Today, we're going to generate 100 social media posts in under an hour, and I promise you it's not going to take an hour to do that. I've broken this up into 3 different parts. So we're going to start off by talking about custom instructions, and then we're going to move into actually using ChatGPT to generate content, to ideate for us, to brainstorm for us, and then we're going to move into the Canva portion of the workshop, where we're using Canva, and specifically Canva's AI Magic Studio, which they've invested over Canva's invested over $400 million into this whole AI arm to their digital marketing publishing software platform. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I see we have some more people jumping into the room. Hi, Troy. Hi, Monica. But like I said, the very first thing that we're going to do is work on custom instructions. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that you guys know what I'm talking about. Some of you are probably scratching your head. You're wondering, what is he talking about? One of the biggest complaints that intermediate and beginner users of ChatGPT have is that it does not sound like them. I know when I first started using ChatGPT, one of my biggest complaints was just that. Like, this does not sound like Dylan Lennon, Asheville realtor. This sounds like some sort of robotic computer response. And oftentimes it was way more flowery, and the prose that it would respond with just seemed very purpley. It seemed very flowery. So what I'm going to show you is how you can, whether you're using the free version of ChatGPT or the paid version of ChatGPT, you can turn on a setting that will enable you to give ChatGPT the persona of you, so that when you interact with it, the output that you get when you're generating content like marketing content, advertising content, or sales copy for your business sounds like you. And it's quite simple to do this, but if you haven't seen this shown to you before, then it might kind of be tricky to get to. So the very first thing that we're going to do, and pause me if you have any questions, you might need to raise your hand so that I can see you've raised your hand. The very first thing that you're going to want to do is go to chat.openai.com and log in. And if you have the free account or the paid account, this will work. To set your custom instructions, what you're going to do is go to the very bottom left-hand side of your screen and hover over where your name and your photo, if you have a photo, is located, and then click your name, and then click Customize ChatGPT. Now you're going to see two different sections here. This little pop-up box will open up, and there will be two questions. The first set of questions is, what would you like ChatGPT to know about you to provide better responses? And the second question is, how would you like ChatGPT to respond? So this is a relatively new feature in ChatGPT. This didn't exist a year ago. This was added probably kind of make a mistake here by not knowing exactly when, but 4 to 6 months ago, this was added. So what this enables you to do is to give ChatGPT some sort of working knowledge, some sort of working memory of you and your business. Now, to make this simple for everyone, what I've done is I prepared a list of questions that you can use to answer if you're wanting to update your custom instructions for ChatGPT. I'm going to paste them in the chat. Suffering from the problem of having too many windows open. So in the chat, I'm going to post a list of questions, and this list of questions are questions that you can pick and choose from. It's not letting me copy and paste, so let's figure this out really quickly. Bear with me 1 second. It's always fun to have tech difficulties during a tech demonstration. Let's see here. Okay, copy. Now it's still not showing up. Well, how about this? How about I just share with you guys the link to the document that I have? That will work.
Or we could take a screenshot.
Yeah, but I want you guys to be able to kind of edit this. Let's copy link. Okay. I'm going to show you the questions, and then I'm going to show you why this is important, kind of how to actually do it. Okay, so let me share this link with you guys. This is really important because I think the quality of your interactions with ChatGPT is going to be greatly improved if you can give ChatGPT a working memory of your business, who you are. So here's a Google link in the chat. Now, if you're watching this via the recording, I'll make sure to include this in the email. But let's go through this. I'm going to go ahead and paste this in here. So I just posted a link to these custom instructions, and the custom instructions guide includes a list of questions. So you can include in your custom instructions your name, your occupation, you're a real estate agent, where you service buyers and sellers, the name of your office or your team, whether you're affiliated with any professional associations, what your primary focus is or specialization. So if you focus on cabin homes, or you focus on waterfront properties, or you focus on horse properties, you want to include that information in your custom instructions so that when you're interacting with ChatGPT, it, in a way, will know what your target audience is. If you focus on working with equestrian properties, then your target audience is horse lovers. So giving ChatGPT this information is just going to help you better when it comes to creating content. You can also include things like how many years of experience you have in your profession, whether you cover specific cities, geographies, neighborhoods. Do you have any areas you've given unique names or nicknames? If you work with a team or colleague, you can mention their names and roles. You can describe your approach or philosophy when working with clients. You can mention any personality traits that describe you. And so you can kind of read through this on your own. One of the things that I'll point out is that ChatGPT knows the DISC profile, it knows Enneagram, and it knows basically all of the different personality profile tests and the results. So if you give ChatGPT more information about you, it's just going to do a better job in producing content for you and knowing who you are. So once you've answered these questions, and you can do it down here, on your own, in your own sheet at the bottom, or you can just do it directly in the custom instructions response section here. You can just type in as you go. That's the first section. The first section is who you are, what you do, what you're about, and who you serve, essentially. At the bottom, there's another box. Now, this box is where you can kind of get a little bit more specific about how you want ChatGPT to respond. This is really crafting the persona a little bit more deeply here. You can say, please don't ever respond with emojis. Please don't be overly verbose or exclamatory. Do not overstate. So one of the things that I experienced whenever I first started using ChatGPT is it would provide these elaborate responses. I would ask it to describe the home buying process, and it would just go like full tilt and very with very accurate and correct information, but it just didn't sound like me. So you can add information in here like sentence length, types of adjectives that you want it to use or not use. I instructed it to use simple language and avoid jargon, and to please explain things in a straightforward manner. I asked it to use real life examples whenever it's explaining complex subjects, because that's the way that I communicate with people. I also asked ChatGPT to explain the why and benefits of things. So whenever it's explaining something, answering a question for me, I want it to explain the why and the benefits. I also asked it to write content in a way with clear headings and bullet points so that I can skim read sometimes. Sometimes I also noticed that if I was asking Chat or writing something about buying and selling, maybe the topic touched on financial services, sometimes ChatGPT will say, well, you should talk to a CPA or you should talk to an accountant. And I know that. So I asked ChatGPT to not really offer that sort of advice whenever it thinks about doing that. So what you can do once you've filled out your custom instructions, okay, you've finished this top box and you finish this bottom box, you can enable it. So this is the cool thing, is that sometimes you don't want ChatGPT to respond as if it's got knowledge of who you are and what you do. You can turn it off and then click save. So once I do that, now my dashboard, my ChatGPT interface doesn't have that working memory of Dylan Lennon, Astro Real Estate Agent. It's just the boilerplate ChatGPT. But whenever I go in and go to customize ChatGPT and turn on enable for new chats, every new time I click this new chat button and start interacting with ChatGPT, it's going to know who I am and where I work and who I serve. So I think that's a really low-hanging fruit first step if you're just getting into ChatGPT and you want to really make sure your experience as you get to know the interface, as you start working with it, is as good as possible. Spend some time on your custom instructions, especially if you're diving into using ChatGPT for ideation and content creation. I think that that's one of the key things that if you do, your experience will be a whole lot better. So let's go ahead and let's just dive straight into generating content. So I'm assuming that everyone's got custom instructions set up. I'm going to show you what it looks like if you don't have custom instructions set up. And then just know that if you have it set up, it's just going to be that much better and more tailored to your experience. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a prompt that I like to call the lesser known facts prompt. And what this prompt is going to do, show you what it looks like, is it will create a unique list of facts and information about any topic. Now, I have 3 different versions of it, and the version that we're going to use today is this variation of this quote-unquote expert version. You can get super creative with this prompt, and so I'm just going to show you one way to use this prompt to quickly generate a list of 99, we'll change it to 100, different pieces of information about your hyper-local market that you can then use and repurpose in content that you post on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or whatever. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this prompt. I'll paste this prompt in here so that you guys have the boilerplate prompt And I'm going to take a peek at these comments really quickly. Taylor, you said, sorry, you said you asked it to explain something and benefits. I like the phrase, but cannot remember where the question mark is. I'm sorry, yeah, I can't remember either. If I think of it, I'll let you know. And if you can jog my memory somehow, that would be great. But we can also go back to anything that we talked about at the end. I'm going to try to move through things kind of quickly so that we have time for question and answer and playing around. So I'm going to copy this prompt and go into ChatGPT, paste it. I'm going to say, generate a list of 100 lesser known facts about, we'll just do my city and state, Asheville, North Carolina. For each point, provide an explanation. And I'm going to say, for each point, provide a very brief explanation. This says craft the explanations to be detailed, engaging, offering insights that would captivate potential buyers and clients. And so you can see, like, this is asking ChatGPT to draw on information about buyers and sellers. And in order to do that effectively, it really needs to have those custom instructions about who you are, where you work, who you serve, what your target audience is, if you're going to ask it to do that. So the goal is to educate my audience, showcase my expertise, attract new clients, and I'm asking ChatGPT to ensure that the topics it includes are intriguing and aligned with the interests of my potential buyers. So here I'm focusing on buyers, serving as rich material for future content creation. So I'm going to click go ahead and go. And ChatGPT is doing the thing that it is the best at, which is ideation and kind of creating these long lists of information for us. And so what you can see here is it's got this really rich list of information about Asheville, North Carolina. And the first thing that you want to do before you proceed with creating content based off of something you've gotten from ChatGPT is make sure that it's correct. And so I've done this so many times that I kind of know what to expect with this list. But it says Asheville's known as the land of the sky. It's Beer City, USA. We have the Biltmore Estate, which is the largest privately owned house. We've got this really, really long list of honestly really cool information about Asheville. Like most of this, I've done this a couple of times, and every time I do it, I learn something new about Asheville, which is pretty cool. So we've got a list of 54. It stopped at 54. Sometimes it will do this. If it stops before it's done, just click continue generating, and it will keep going. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to watch it until it completes. And what we're going to do is have a two-step process. So this is the part where you can get really creative with the prompt. The prompt that I use kind of casts a wide net. It assumes that the people that you're speaking to on your social media account are really just the general public. But most of you know that your clients fit a certain persona. They fit a certain demographic. They have certain sets of interests and wants. And what you can do is you can really tailor this prompt to be targeted to a specific audience. And what I mean by that is if you know, for example, that you are a real estate agent that focuses on equestrian properties, then it might be worthwhile to give ChatGPT that information in this prompt. Alternatively, maybe you want to cater to, you want to narrow down the target audience a little bit more than what this prompt actually does, but you don't want to kind of niche yourself down into equestrian properties. You can do something like, let me show you an example. You can go into, I've got this hyperlocal itinerary prompt pack, which kind of targets different archetypes. But one of the things that you could do is you could say, well, I want to target architecture admirers, art aficionados, literature enthusiasts, history buffs, biophilia and nature lovers. So these are all just kind of ways to segment your audience via text and give that information to ChatGPT. So you could copy this again and say, generate a list of 100 lesser known facts about Asheville, North Carolina. Specifically, that would be relevant and interesting to art aficionados, foodies, nature lovers, let's see, music buffs, literature or literary literature, let's say literature, literate lovers, literature lovers. Okay, so you kind of get the point here is the more that you know about your target audience, the better ChatGPT can help you create content that you can then go and use for your business. So I'm going to give it this information. And one of the things that I hope will change is here we've got some information about, some of this would be relevant to those people that we're trying to speak to, but maybe some of the stuff that it produced in this generic result would not, like the farmer's market. Maybe that would be relevant to foodies or foodie lovers. Let's go ahead and click enter and see what happens. So ideally, this new list of 100 lesser known facts becomes more targeted and specifically maybe more interesting to the people that we're trying to speak to. So I'm going to back up for a second before we go on to the next step and say that this is all assuming that one of the roles that you're taking with your social media account is to position yourself as the hyperlocal expert who not only knows a whole lot about real estate, but knows a whole lot about why people would want to live in your town or your city or your market to begin with. And I think that this is just one way that you can create a long list of content that you can sort of fill in the dead space in your social media accounts with actually relevant, engaging, interesting pieces of information about where you live. You can use this method to develop lists of facts and information that you then go and repurpose in a number of different ways. Maybe you want to write a blog post, maybe you want to film a video, maybe you want to actually go ahead and go post on Instagram. And I'm going to show you how you can do that using Canva in a second. So we have a list here. It didn't do 100. I'm going to say, please make sure you give me 100 different lesser known facts. List them all out. So I'm going to take the list that it gives me here. And one of the things that I want it to do is not include titles, because I'm going to show you exactly how we're going to use this. It didn't do 100. So that's what sometimes you just have to wash out. Sometimes it won't. Let's go ahead and use this first list here, because this is the ideal format of the output that I want. So the next step, once you have your list of pieces of content, you just select it all. So I'm going to copy this, Control C, and then I'm going to head over to my favorite spreadsheet organizer. This is Google Sheets, and I'm going to paste all of this into Google Sheets. So I just did Control V. I pasted all of the content in here, and you see we have 100 different pieces of content. And I'm going to title this Instagram posts. And I'm going to download this as a CSV. And then I'm going to go into Canva. I'm going to show you kind of what we're headed towards and then how to get there. So the way that this works is you create your pieces of content, your 100 lesser known facts about, or your 100 frequently asked questions about, your 100 things that you want to tell the world about the city that you live in. And then you go to Canva. And in Canva, you're going to bulk create the tiles that will hold all of this information, all of the pieces of content that you created. So in order to do that, you need to start by selecting a template for a Instagram post that you like a lot. Now, this is just one way to do bulk create in Canva. And there are a number of different ways that you can go about this. I'm going to show you one to hopefully spark your creativity, get the juices flowing so that you can kind of expand on it and tweak it a little bit to meet your own needs. This is a format that I like a lot. This is kind of like a tile that you can post on Instagram that has an image in the background, but then it allows you to say something like it's kind of like highlighting a post in a way. And it's just a different way to present information. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, on the very first thing, we're going to start from the beginning, is go to canva.com and then click on social media. Instagram post, and then you need to find your template. So I have this recently used template over here that I'm just going to go ahead and use. One of the ways that you can find other templates is type in quotes. Quotes will show up. Well, if you type in quotes and search for quote templates, it will show you all of the different Canva templates that allow you to do something that looks a little bit like this tile here. So the first thing that we need to do is format this a little bit so that it looks like how we want all of the Instagram tiles to look. What I'm going to do, because I know I have a little bit more text than they do, is make it bigger. Let's center this a little bit more. Don't worry too much about the background because that's something that you're going to change. I'm going to put this up here. It's a little bit bigger. I'm going to delete that. And then I'm going to grab this text. So I'm going to show you, and then it'll make a lot more sense how this works. So this is kind of a generic format that I want all of these tiles to look like. And what I'm going to do next is make sure that we have the boilerplate text on here formatted so that when it creates 100 of these, I don't have to change this 100 times. And I've got this image is fine. We've got this text. This text will change dynamically based off of whatever we've uploaded to Canva. So the next thing that I'm going to do is go to apps. Apps in Canva is located on the left-hand side in the scroll bar. You may have to scroll down if you have Canva Pro. Then you can scroll down to book create, upload CSV. I'm going to select my Instagram posts sheet. And once you've selected your CSV, you'll see that the data is uploaded. All of the Instagram post text is now in here. It's just going to show the first entry in the sheet. And then what we want to do is we want to link this text to the information in the sheet. And the way that you do that is by clicking once on the text, clicking the 3 ellipses, click connect data, and then click the actual text that shows up. This little pop-up box, connect data, will show up. Then you hover over your text, and it will replace the content of the text with the very first entry in your CSV. Okay, so what we've done here in this very first step is we've linked a text box on the Canva template to text in our sheet that we uploaded. The next thing that we want to do is actually bulk create all of the tiles. So it will bulk create as many tiles as we have entries in our CSV file. So we have 100 entries. So once we click continue down here on the bottom left-hand side of the screen, it should generate 100 tiles containing the text that we have in our CSV file. Before you do that, it's important to just once over your tile to make sure that it looks like you want it to look. So here, there's a little bit more white space, right? I'm going to go ahead and make it a little bit smaller, and hopefully that sizing is appropriate for all of the other pieces of content that are in my CSV file. Let's just click continue to see what happens. So it says generate 99 designs. It's 99 because we've already generated one. I'll click continue, and now it's generating a new Canva design with 99 more tiles. So if we scroll down, we have input the content into each one of the tiles in our Canva design. So that's a really quick way to kind of bulk create a lot of content. Now, obviously, depending on your style, depending on your brand, depending on how you look on social media, it may not make sense for every single one of these to look the same. So what I would do if it were me is I would change at least the background image. And you can change the background image using a combination of stock imagery. So if you have images of, for example, in this case, this talks about Asheville being the beer city with more breweries per capita than any other US city. So a very obvious background image for this would just be a brewery, a local brewery. And I have tons of shots of me at local breweries in my phone. So I could just upload that to Canva and drag and drop and replace this background image. A quicker way to get stock content for this is to use Canva's text to image feature, which is an AI feature that they just added. So what you can do is go into Elements, and there's an option to generate AI images. You can generate your own, and you can type in, let's just say, see what happens when I just type in brewery. That's very generic word. So it'll create a image of a brewery, and you can also give it more information than that. So this is depending on your style, depending on your brand, you can give it information. Maybe you want a photorealistic image of a brewery. Maybe you want a cartoon image of a brewery. Maybe one of these is okay. So you can copy and paste from the AI design, or you can go into Elements and type in brewery and see what images Canva has for breweries already. So again, I don't want to hedge too much or caveat this too much, but your choice of imagery and colors is all going to be brand specific. And so this is just meant to get you off the ground a little bit and make it a little bit easier to start creating the pieces of content that connect with your audience in a quick way using ChatGPT and Canva. And so what I would do here is I would just go through each one of these, and it could literally take me the next 30 minutes. If I stop talking, I could finish and replace all of these tiles with an appropriate image. And then what I would do is I would download all of these to my phone, save them in a folder, and then upload them at a regular schedule. So this is 99 days of content for Instagram. You can either use a scheduler to schedule these posts out, or you can post them natively in the app on your own. Just wake up one morning. What I like about this is it takes the think out of having to know what to post and when to post. Because what to post is, well, you've got this hyperlocal piece of information that connects with your audience that you crafted with ChatGPT. When to post? Well, you've got 99 of these. You could literally post every day for the next 100 days. Now, you might not want to do that because if you're one of those people that cares about how your tiles look on your Instagram page, they would all kind of look like the same. But I'll show you an example of someone that is doing this and what that looks like. Let's see if I can pull her up. Here we go. One sec. All right. Let me pull up her Instagram for you guys. You can see just one way that this could look. Okay. So this is Evelyn, and Evelyn's just chosen to keep it really simple. And every couple of days, she posts a card like this. And it just includes a piece of information about Asheville. She's kept it super simple. All she does is change the color. And I think that she does a really good job of incorporating a mix of facts about her hometown, where she's working, and this kind of just makes it really easy to scroll through. And if you're interested, you read the card. If not, you don't. But that's just one example of how it could look. Evelyn's just chosen the simple route here, which I think is really appropriate for her brand and what she's doing. It kind of matches the aesthetic of what she's going for here. Any questions right now? Feel free to type up. There's no rhyme or reason to how this is going, and I feel like I've been talking a lot. No questions. That's great. That means I've been perfectly clear. Okay, so let's go ahead and maybe there's one. Yes, we can definitely send the recording. Ideas on how to create reels from AI. Okay, so yes. Canva's Magic Studio is a good place to start, and I would probably it's funny because what's trending on Reels right now seems to be there's a lot of trending reels that include just 5 to 6 seconds of B-roll. So let's do something right now, kind of off the cuff. If you want to create reels using AI and then go into Canva and kind of make it happen, let's see how far we can get. I'm going to go ahead and start a new chat, and let's use this prompt. I'm going to create a spreadsheet of video topics or topic ideas, and I'd like your help. Using my custom instructions for what you know about me, please help me generate 100 video topics. Let's just say 100 video topics for IG Reels, right? IG Reels. I'll fill in the actual content later. And we can say my target audience is fit or split into 5. So I'd like your help generating. And again, ChatGPT is really smart. You don't have to be perfect at all. Misspell all you want. It's really smart. It knows what you're trying to do. So I'd like your help in generating 20 video topic ideas per audience. And then I'm going to give it a list of audiences. So one audience, we're all trying to reach more buyers. We all want to reach more sellers. We all want to include local community information. I think it's always helpful to provide some touch of personal or personalized content topics in social media. And then I think agent to agent connections is also a good audience to include, because you might want to reach referral partners. So creating content that referral partners could connect with. So let's read that before we click submit. I'm going to create a spreadsheet of video topic ideas, and I'd like your help using my custom instructions for what you know about me. Please help me generate 100 video topics for IG Reels. I'll fill in the content later. My target audience is split into 5. So I'd like your help in generating 20 video topic ideas per audience, buyers, sellers, local community information, personalized content and topics, and agent to agent connections. So let me make sure that I've got this custom instructions set up. So I do. Now, my custom instructions, I could probably tweak them to be really specific for my role as a buyer, seller's agent. Right now, they're set to kind of achieve a different goal. So we'll see how good this works. But let's go ahead and click go. So here we go. And it's plugging away. It's doing what it does best. Let's take a second to go through this, because I think this is just, this still blows my mind to this day. I've been using this for over a year, and it's still incredible at the ability to just generate a list of ideas for you to take and run with. So video topic ideas to reach your target audience for buyers, top 5 tips for first-time home buyers, exploring Asheville's best neighborhoods. And for families, we could probably take that out to abide by fair housing, but you can also tell ChatGPT to make sure it follows fair housing. Hidden gems, unique properties in Asheville's, navigating the home inspection process, budgeting 101, understanding mortgage pre-approval, virtual home tours, negotiation strategies for home buyers. So what I would do right now, what I see what's trending on Reels is 4 to 6 seconds of B-roll. And B-roll is just like an image of someone opening a door, or a video of someone opening a door, a video of someone pouring coffee, a video of a home inspector going into the attic. And it's just a quick shot of it. What's trending is 4 to 6 seconds of B-roll, call to action on the actual video, and then all of the information in the actual caption for the video. So for some of these, what you could do is, for each one of these 20 here, if you have 20 different pieces of B-roll that are relevant to the topic, you could just go into your phone, grab that B-roll and then use this topic as input for a ChatGPT prompt that creates the actual content, and then take that content and use that as the caption, and you've got your actual reel ready to go. Now, one of the things that you can do is say, thanks for that. What if you don't know what B-roll to post? Could you please give me ideas for B-roll for each one of those topics, and put the B-roll idea in a table with the topic. So column 1 is topic and column 2 is B-roll. And let's click enter. Okay, so now we have a list of the actual topics with B-roll ideas. So here we have footage of happy first-time homebuyers receiving keys. Okay. We have shots of parks, playgrounds, and family-friendly amenities. Some of these you may already have on your phone. Some of these you may need to go out and get. But I think that this kind of takes a little bit more of the think out. Now, in Canva, and let me show you what you can do in Canva to actually get this B-roll. If you don't have the B-roll on your phone, you can create AI video in Canva, and I'll show you that in a moment. Let's see if we can find a good one to do that with. Footage of neighborhood amenities. Like, let's do the one with the parks. That will probably have the best results. So what you can do in Canva, there's a text to video tool, and to get to it, you go to Canva, Magic Studio. They have this huge suite of tools. Let's do text to video, and it's going to automatically just give you the format that you want. And in terms of I think it's 9:16, which is the Instagram Reels. And on the left-hand side, what you need to do is enter in words to describe the video that you want created. So B-roll is just a word that's been used to describe like a shot, like a image or video of someone pouring coffee, and a quick clip of someone eating a slice of pizza, a quick video of someone picking an apple off of a tree. It's just like it's kind of a form of video that really just provides context about what's actually occurring. So let's go to let's do shots of parks. Yeah. Let's do a panning shot of a community park, and let's see how it does. So one of the things is that Canva did was they partnered with this company called Runway.ml. Runway.ml is a technology company that their whole thing is they've created a software platform for going from text to video, and Canva sort of put that under the hood of Canva's Magic Studio, and enables you, if you have Canva Pro, to use Runway.ml services for free. I mean, you get a certain number of credits. So why would you do this? Why would you go to Canva to create B-roll? Well, one, if you don't have the B-roll on your phone, if you don't have it and you want to try to see if Canva's AI tools can create a passable AI-generated video of B-roll, I think AI-generated B-roll is pretty good now. It used to not be so good, but it's just getting better by the day. It takes a couple of seconds to generate, though. Yeah, Miko. So what we'll do is, let me just go to canva.com again. And then there's this new button they've added on the left-hand side of the screen, Magic Studio. It's got all those stars. And once you click Magic Studio, it'll take you to their splash page, their landing page for Magic Studio. And there's a ton of different features, which it needs its own sort of workshop. But the one that I'm using right now is this text to video, which is about halfway down the screen. And it looks like this. Okay, so let's go back and see how we've done here. Where did that go? Okay, so we've got a video. I'm going to go ahead and delete all this stuff in here. The template includes a bunch of stuff. I actually don't know why they have all this stuff locked in here. I guess so it's that people can learn how to use it, but it just kind of makes it difficult to get started with your design. I wonder if I can just put it over. So for some reason, this particular generation did not produce something that was formatted in 9:16. We could also ask it to do that, but this is B-roll. I think that looks pretty good. I mean, it's literally just meant to be a quick shot of something that's just moving. It provides something interesting for the eye to look at. And one of the things that you can do is this isn't going to look pretty at all, but if we go back to the ChatGPT, maybe the topic that we want to talk about is not Asheville's best neighborhoods for families, but we could say, if we go back to this, Asheville's top parks. So you can just go in and add whatever text that you want. And so you can do a number of different things. It's just one of the things. And there's a agent in Chicago, Brandon Blankenship, that creates this type of content and has scaled from a couple thousand followers to over 30,000 followers in his living in Chicago, the Chicago suburbs Instagram account. And he creates this type of Chicago's best park, Chicago's best pizzerias, Chicago's best, positioning himself as the local expert. So you can use Canva's AI tools to create B-roll. Another thing that you can do is use your own B-roll. And this is just a 4-second video. I'm going to delete this. This is a 4-second video. You can go ahead and download this. And now you have the actual content for the post. If you want a little bit more help with what to actually write, you can ask ChatGPT, can you please generate a bullet list of Asheville's top 5 parks? And those are 5 great parks in Asheville. So you can go ahead and just copy and paste that, and that can go directly into the Instagram post. And then you're going to add whatever hashtags you use for your business. So this can be a multi-step process depending on what your end goal is. If your end goal is just still tiles, you've seen how you can go from ChatGPT as a tool to help you ideate to Canva to help you get off the ground with some content in bulk. You can use it to help you go from text to video. I think the whole point of why you would want to do this is to really start to develop a robust marketing plan that specifically targets the people that you want to connect with, right? This doesn't make sense to do if you're just going to put out a bunch of generic content that is reaching everyone, because if you're speaking to everyone, you're speaking to no one. I think that the best use case for this specific routine is if you really thought carefully about these custom instructions, who you're trying to serve, and then you go into ChatGPT and you ask it for help coming up with a marketing plan. And so hopefully this was helpful. Ashley, the Canva Pro is not free. Canva Pro requires, I think it's $13.99 a month. I think that Canva Pro plus ChatGPT plus are, I mean, Canva Pro is $13.99. ChatGPT plus is $20 a month. So for $34, $35 a month, you basically have complete control over the marketing arm of your business. I mean, you can do so much with both of those tools together that I think that it's well worth the investment. Even if you were to just say like, okay, for the month of April, I'm going to pay $20 for ChatGPT Plus. I'm going to pay $13.99 for Canva Pro, and my budget's $40 for the month of April. I'm going to plan 365 days worth of content for the year. I mean, you could theoretically cancel after that. And you'd have created a year's worth of content for your business. So yeah, I think that it's worth it. You can get pretty far using some of these tools for free, but there are limits. There are credits that they give you. With ChatGPT, you can get very, very far just on the free version of ChatGPT. So, I think that it's good to start off with the free version as you get comfortable with it. Again, you can do custom instructions with the free version. And then as your needs start growing, then you can consider doing the plus. Anybody have any questions, wonderments, ideas? Oh, you're welcome, Taylor. Yeah, and again, I know that we kind of stepped through a lot of different screens and a lot of different ways of using these tools, and so I know that yeah, exactly. Playing around with it is getting your hands dirty is the best way to kind of get to know it. There's so many different ways you can prompt it as well to ask it for content ideas that you really have to sit down and think of it. Be careful what you ask for, because it can give you anything. And just because it gives you something doesn't mean you should go ahead and use it. I guess before we end, I'll show one more tip that I have a lot of fun with. And it kind of goes back to the creating content that connects with a specific person that you're trying to reach. And so I'm going to let's choose a prompt that I created called the hyperlocal itinerary prompt. And this was inspired by the 72 Hours in Sedona, New York Times-esque article that profiles, like if you're visiting one of these luxury destination places, it's fun to read like what an example itinerary would be. And so I took that approach for my market, because we have a lot of reload in my market that's interested in exploring this Asheville as a place to live. And everyone always asks me, well, do you have any ideas on what to do? And I'm like, of course I have ideas on what you could do. But what had been doing for the longest time is giving everybody the same list of things, regardless of whether they're retirees from the Northeast or a young couple from LA. Like give everybody the same list of things. And so I have a prompt that you can use to create a more personalized itinerary that's reminiscent of the 72 Hours in Sedona type thing. And it looks a little bit like this. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen over here. Window. All right, let's go to ChatGPT. It looks like this. So it says create a 72-hour itinerary for, and then I'm going to say just Asheville, North Carolina, starting on a Friday evening. Okay, this will change depending on when they're coming, and ending on Sunday afternoon for an affluent couple who likes contemporary design. And I've listed a whole bunch of stuff here. This was created for real buyers that I knew that after my first initial buyer consult, I kind of had them dialed in really in terms of what their likes and what their dislikes were. And they wanted some ideas. So I went to ChatGPT and I was like, can you help me come up with ideas for this couple? And one of the neat things that you can say in here is please be sure to include hidden gems and off the beaten path destinations. So let's go ahead and click enter. And this will prompt ChatGPT to create a complete itinerary for the entire duration of their visit. It's specifically tailored to them. So no more generic, bland, like this is a list of 15 museums to go to in my city. Now we're providing stuff that speaks directly to the client. And this is all about providing wow service. This is all about providing really bespoke, kind of white glove service to the clients that we're working with. And as you can see here, I went day by day, starting Friday night, checking the Foundry. The Foundry is a boutique hotel in downtown Asheville, dinner at one of the most popular restaurants in downtown Asheville. This is all because I told it these clients like Michelin star dining, they like specific types of outdoor recreation activities. And so it's gone through and it's selected the amenities, the locations, the landmarks that will be relevant to them. Before we go, it's 12:59. So what I do with this is like I can copy and paste this and put it into an email. And if it needs tweaking, I'll tweak it. Or if you're looking at it from a lead gen content creation perspective, what you can do is you can go into Canva and create a reel with, let's see, like 1, 2, 3 different slides. And on each slide, the first slide could be 72 hours in Asheville for art aficionados, and each slide could be a list of what they could do that day. So there's a couple of different ways you can repurpose this content for social media that I think would get really good engagement, because it's something you can quickly digest just scrolling, and it's really interesting. Like if you put together a curated list of things for a specific type of person, then they're more likely to engage with that. So hopefully this was helpful. I'll paste this prompt into the chat if you want to play with it for your own city. I think it's a lot of fun to see what the results are. It can be repurposed for so many different things. And that's it. If you guys have any questions, I'm going to hang out for a little bit more. If you haven't already signed up at nerdyagents.com for the newsletter, it's going to go out at 3 o'clock today with some really cool tips and new AI tools that I found over the last week. It comes out weekly on Fridays. But yeah, I'm going to hang out. If there's any questions, feel free to post in the chat, or you can reach me at my email. I'm going to post it in here as well. And I'll just hang out for a little bit. I'm going to end the recording though.